And I'm over the moon today that I have my first guest, Ayse Birsel, here with us. Good morning, Ayse. How are you?
I'm super fine, Mary. It's so good to see you. How's my sound coming?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I hope, yes. This is my first walk outside the line. So you are clearly my first guest, as numero uno. You're my numero uno.
What an honor. Thank you so much, Mary. It's the world premiere.
Well, it's going to be a fun, relaxed chat, and just hello to all our LinkedIn listeners. Say hello and where you're from, and maybe 30s. This is going to be 30, 40 minutes. At the end, if you have some questions, we will ask Ayse to help us out on a few issues. Okay. So walk outside the line is really about it's about you, Ayse, because you are an exuberantly creative human being. You have dared to reimagine your life, reinvent, reframe, and you straddle many worlds, wear many hats. Right? No hat today. You have no hat today.
I should have thought of that.
I know many of you will know Ayse, but she's been named by Fast Company as one of the most creative people in business. Birsel and Sec is her award-winning innovative product design studio in New York, co-founded with her creative, amazing husband, BB Sec. She's written, which I've always loved, Design the Life You Love, an inspiring, exquisitely inspiring book about a step-by-step guide to creating a meaningful future. Plus all her workshops that she leads around the world, the Museum of Modern Art, New York, and the Cooper Hewitt National Design Museum and the Philadelphia Museum of Art all have permanent collections of her work. And I'm sure some of you sat in some of Ayse's Herman Miller chairs or have some of her kitchen appliances. In any case, I could go on and on, but I'm going to be brief. Since I've been thrilled to join Ayse on her weekly virtual tea, which is a fast-growing community of amazing visual thinkers, designers, and people from all over the world. So welcome, Ayse. I am going to ask you to nudge our friends here to think a little bit more outside the line. So let's see how we go here, okay? So first of all, I know that you're not risk averse. Following your career and having interviewed you 10 years ago on New York Brand Lab Radio, I've done your workshop, and I'm so thrilled to have you in my life. I know that you are not risk averse. So I'm going to ask you, I know that you said recently, failure can be the beginning of something beautiful. So share with us a little bit about that, because to me, we're going to start there.
Great. Thank you. First of all, Mary, it's such a pleasure to start the new year together with you. And that was a most elegant introduction. So thank you for that. And as you say, you're not risk averse. The thing that popped into my head was like, I guess I'm not, because, I grew up in Turkey, in Izmir, which is a beautiful city by the Aegean Sea. I did my undergraduate in industrial design in Ankara. But since I'm a teenager, I had this idea of coming to New York. Even though I had never been to the States before, I had never seen New York outside of movies. But I wanted to come to New York, and I made that happen. So I guess that already, when you arrive in New York and from Turkey, you're like 20 years old, I guess after that, anything is less risky. So definitely risk averse. I'm not risk averse. So, and this idea of failure can be the beginning of something beautiful, really, for me, is something that truly resonates with where we're at today, that we're in the middle of a pandemic, a global crisis. There are so many other things that is going on in our country right now. I'm not even going to get into that. It feels like there's potentially so much room for failure. And I think when we're surrounded with that feeling, it's even more important that we are optimistic, that this moment that has so much potential for failure could actually be the beginning of something beautiful. And for me, this reminds me of 2008 in my life, when the American economy crashed. And Bibi and I had been partners and married for maybe 4 years at the time. I had uprooted Bibi from his beautiful work as an automobile designer for Renault, the French automobile manufacturer. Bibi was a Parisian, and then we met in love. We met and fell in love. We met in love. That's a new way of saying it.
I like that.
And we met when I did a concept car for Renault, and then since we fell in love working together, we thought we should continue doing that, and we became partners. And when there was this question of like, should we stay in Paris, where Bibi's home was, or come to New York, where my home was, we chose New York. So 4 years later, when the economy crashed, I felt very responsible, and I thought to myself, oh my God, like it's not just me who's concerned here, it's Bibi and our family. We had 3 young kids at the time. And long story short, if it wasn't for that moment, you and I wouldn't be here talking about Design the Life You Love, because in that moment in 2008, where we felt really frustrated that we didn't have many clients, we didn't have work, and everybody was cutting costs and kind of taking their work in-house. That moment gave me the opportunity to think about how I think, to develop my methodology of deconstruction, reconstruction, then applying that to not only our work, but also out of our life, to our life, and then out of that, developing a workshop and a book eventually, and here we are. So that taught me really that failure can be the beginning of something beautiful. And I try and carry the same hope for us today, that we don't, when we're in the middle of a crisis, we don't know how it's going to turn out, but that having the hope that it's going to turn out well, and that we're going to do things maybe that we wouldn't have done otherwise, and it's going to take us to other beautiful experiences.
Yes, I think that's that makes so much sense. And being optimists, I mean, you can't make huge decisions and choices like you have without being optimistic. So even though this is a very surreal time we're living in, we have to believe the process and be optimistic. And also this sense of play that you have. What was that? This whole sense of play. You say, when I am playing, I am not afraid. I mean, that's a pretty important part of the equation, isn't it?
It really is. And what I mean by that is being playful with ideas and being open to them. And just think of when you were a kid, right? Mary, I bet you were this amazing, little girl. And the way that we would play without worrying about, like, is this a mistake? Right. Am I going to fail? But as we were playing, we were also learning. And that really is the sentiment, I think, that's important, that we're now as adults preoccupied by, like, is this going to work? What's this going to lead to? Am I doing the right thing here? And yet to be able to creative and do things differently, come up with new solutions, you have to be playful. And the more serious things are, the more playfulness is required to have an open mind and to try and different ideas until the right one rises to the top. So that's the playfulness.
That is the playfulness. When I started Black Line Crazy, it sort of took me by the hand and led me down a path I could never have imagined. So my question to you is, Ayse, with even writing the book, Design the Life You Love, did you sometimes feel, or in any of your pursuits, did you sometimes feel as though you were being taken by the hand and led down a path you could never have imagined? Or were you more because that allows for a lot of things to get in the way, right? Or were you a little bit more focused and directed?
I think there's, I mean, when I think about your question, I think about serendipity. You know, there's many things that happen in our life that are serendipitous.
Yeah.
That you have to hold for them. So I love this book that Stephen King, the author who's written all those horror books, has written about writing, called On Writing. And in it, he explains his creative process. And one of the things he talks about is really, you have to put your butt down in this chair and show up for the work. And that to me is really the key to serendipity, because you don't know when the ideas are going to come, the real work is going to start gelling. You just have to make a practice. And another of my heroes, Twyla Thorpe, also has this beautiful book called The Creative Habit. You know it. And she talks about getting at 5 every morning, throwing herself into a cab, going to her studio, and like half asleep, but knowing that she has to be in that studio to create. And I think that's the that's really the, you know, what takes me, you know, and guides me, is that being true to that creative habit. And it's not easy. Like, I think Twyla Thorpe is an incredible, she has an incredible work ethic. I can't say that every day I show up, but I try to show up every day. And I know that it makes a huge difference.
I know, I love that bit about in her book about booking the cab, and every day it's booked. I mean, she doesn't have to wake up and think, shall I go? It's there, right? Which is part of the routine, right? The habit.
It really is. And the thing, if I may, the more I practice and the more I talk with creatives like yourself, I think we all have fear somewhere. You know, there are very few people who are creative who can say, I have no fear. I certainly feel like, even though I have so much experience, I still fear, like, is this gonna work out? Like, do I know what I'm doing? Will I have an idea today? And the creative habit, the discipline of just, for me, like waking up, showing at my table, holding a pen, and just doing the work, helps me get over the fear. Because if I think about it too much, and that's why I like working in early mornings when I'm half asleep and my fear is also somewhat sleeping, and I just start to think, and you know.
That's the trouble with coffee, right? It wakes us up, so we have to try and do this before we wake up too much.
That's why I drink tea.
That's right. That's right. You always drink tea, the virtual teas. That's right.
Virtual teas, exactly.
Well, I love the way you talk. I mean, for those who are listening, I hope I have the chat box on. It says show, but we'll see. I'm wondering, you talk about lives are our biggest design project, right?
Yeah.
When I first heard that, it was like, we spend so much time looking, searching, seeking, doing, and we don't actually realize that if we look back at ourselves, we are our most significant, remarkable design project. How did that sense come about? That was before you started writing the book? Was that when you started the deconstruction, reconstruction process? Because it feels like a very powerful manifesto, and I love it.
It was even before that. So it's interesting. You know, there are these moments in our life. Steve Jobs has this amazing quote, which is a long quote, and I won't be able to remember all of it, but he talks about having the confidence somehow that the different dots will somehow connect, and that we need to trust our kind of intuition, and whether it's through karma or intuition or something else, having the conviction that somehow these dots will connect. I think it's, to me, he's one of the most amazing designers of all time. And that sense that he introduces, that you don't always know how the dots are going to connect, but that you believe that they will somehow, and that there's a magic, there's an unknown, there's a karma, intuitive, unconscious piece to it. So where I'm going with that is the whole story of Design the Life You Love kind of happened like that, where I did certain things and I didn't know how they were going to connect, and they did. So the idea of that our life is our biggest project was something that happened years before I did deconstruction reconstruction, and it happened in a workshop. I was at a workshop with Women Presidents Organization, and and I was one of the members. I was the only designer in our group, and we were about maybe 10 or 12 women presidents who had, everybody had their own business, and the task was define your mission in one statement. I think maybe mission in life. And I thought to myself, and I didn't take it seriously. I was like, I don't know, what's my mission? And but I thought, okay, I did want to participate, so I thought I should say something funny and also that mentions that I'm a designer, kind of like because that's what makes me different among this group of people. So I said, my mission is to design the life I love. I literally said it, Mary. I wrote it down. And the people who were at that workshop to this day will kind of remind me that that's where it all started. And then nothing happened. I thought that was really a witty statement. And then, but years later, when I did deconstruction, reconstruction, and developed my own design process, the two things came together. And I thought, if my life is my biggest project, and I now have this design process, can I apply my design process to my life? Almost like an experiment, right? Like a test.
Yes, yes.
And then one of my good friends had just started Academy of Life, and Shirley Moulton.
Shirley Moulton, yes.
Yeah, Shirley, our mutual friend. That's how we met, right?
I think so.
And Shirley said, Ayse, that's a brilliant idea. She really encouraged me. She said, why don't you do a workshop for Academy of Life? And that's how I started doing my workshops, and then developed the whole content for it, did my own exercises to see if they worked. And here we are.
Here we are. Well, I'm just, hoping that, our listeners will, for those who are looking and struggling or wondering how to move forward in these surreal times, that this is an amazing opportunity to sort of think differently and try to reimagine how they can take a step in a different direction. So I think for those of you who haven't got to that point or been thinking like that, I was just thinking this could be, so you could nudge them in that direction, because it's so inspiring, because it's tough, things can be tough for a lot of us,
Things are definitely tough, and I think to kind of counter that, it's really, I find it really helpful to think like a designer. And this doesn't mean that you need to be a designer, but what I love about being a designer are the values. Like,
yes.
Designers are optimists. No matter how hard the problem, we think we're going to come up with a better solution. And that optimism in today's world, in today's circumstances, I think is really an important value or kind of North Star to have, right? So thinking holistically, seeing the big picture, seeing beyond our circumstances, having empathy for ourselves and for each other. These are, to me, all these come from how to think like a designer, the foundational elements of design, and they really make sense with, you can't design something unless there's a problem. And I think we have a problem today on many levels. So design becomes a very useful tool to think about these problems in a different way.
And
Of
I know,
course, I say that because I'm a designer. You know, it's.
but I know you said, I think recently on one of the virtual teas, that you hope to help everybody to think like a designer, because we all, even though designers do think differently, you know, you have this inherent belief that we can all use this our creativity and design thinking to come up with a different way of being in the world, you know, right now.
It's true. It's the chief design officer of PepsiCo called me a design evangelista.
That's right.
Mauro Porcini. And once he said that, because I was kind of explaining what I'm trying to do with Design the Life You Love,
Right.
And to teach anyone, you know, from the youngest, from 13 to 90 plus, how to deconstruct and reconstruct their life and how to think about their life differently. And he said, "You're a design evangelista," and I said, "Oh, that really sounds good. I'll accept that." And and that, you know, I've been designing so many products for you know, so many Fortune 500 companies and Fortune 100 companies, and seeing how it brings value to these companies. And the whole idea is improving people's lives through products and services. And then designing your life is truly taking those same process and tools and doing it without a product or a service. It's truly the purest design project, where it's you, your life, your work, and your values, and a design process that will help you step by step think differently about your life. Yeah.
Well, I guess you haven't been hitting the road in the last months, you know, because I know you've taken this workshop around corporations and teaching people also how to love the work, how to love the work you do, right, as well as the life. Design, exactly. How to love the work you love. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I used to travel, if not every week, every other week. And I must say I miss travel a little bit, but I'm also grateful that this time has allowed me to be with my family all the time. You know, so no complaints.
No complaints. Ayse, I also want to say, I heard you say, you know, when lost or bewildered, collaborate. So that's, so the collaboration thing now, a virtual collaboration must be, you know, is bigger than it ever has been. So share a little bit with us about that.
That actually also has been one of the positive outcomes of COVID, where when COVID hit and we started sheltering in place and realized that this is not going to go away immediately, and all our work, like you said, like I couldn't travel anymore. We couldn't do meetings in person. We had, I was about to go to South by Southwest to give an amazing talk with my partners, Don Norman and John Zapolsky, who were, you know, we had been preparing for our talk. All of that suddenly disappeared. And in that moment, I thought to myself, there's so much that I don't know.
Yes.
And so much I need to learn. And I started calling up my friends and talking to them. And then one of the things that really was influential is one of my friends is Marshall Goldsmith, who's known as the world's #1 leadership coach. He's a mentor and a friend. And as soon as COVID hit, he started these daily calls to bring our community of Marshall Goldsmith 100 coaches together around Zoom calls. And it was just like, let's talk about, like, people would call in, the members would call in from all over the world and talk about, like, what's happening in Italy, what's happening in New York, what's happening in Japan, in Africa. And Marshall said, if I can help one person among you, that's enough for me. And I thought, oh, that's so beautiful. And he really lowered the bar. And you know, him saying, if I could just help one person, and I thought to myself, okay, well, my community is the community of people who've done Design the Life You Love.
Mhm.
What if I reach out to them, and if I could help one person, that should be enough for me. I mean, if it's enough for Marshall, it'll be enough for me. So it's and with that, I started these virtual teas that today is our 41st 41st virtual tea, and it happens every Wednesday at 5 p.m. New York time. And so what we do is we use design tools and deconstruction, reconstruction, one tool at a time, every virtual tea. And Mary, you've come to these as well. And
I
so
have.
that actually accelerated this whole collaboration piece for me, because I thought, okay, I don't know, like you and I set up our cameras just now for our conversation now. When we first started Zoom, I was like, I don't know how to light myself. I don't know where to put my camera. I don't know, how to do this well. It's a whole new experience. And so I invited Ryan Anderson, who is the VP of Innovation at Herman Miller. He had just written an article on LinkedIn about like how to do a better Zoom call. And I said, Ryan, you want to come and talk to me and to whoever shows up? And he said, of course. And so that's accelerated. He was my first expert. And then after that, I just kept on. Every tea I would ask one of my friends to come and talk about, like Chester Elton came and talked about gratitude. And then, Dory Clark, our mutual friend, and one of your next guests, I think, talked about how to stand out and make yourself noticed among everybody else in these times. And I realized, hey, I don't know a lot of stuff, but I know friends who are generous enough to help me, and so I can collaborate with them. And so that's the whole piece of, like, when I'm like, I have that funny look on my face, I'm like, I don't know. I call someone up and say, I don't know how to do this, can you help me? And just talking about it gets us started in figuring it out.
It's so special. It is so special. I mean, I've been on Zoom a lot, and I have to say, sometimes I feel I've never been so connected, with people, other people all over the world, and you have that also. Do you want to share, ask people, or tell people how to join the virtual tea? Because the 41st one is this afternoon, right?
Yes. Let me, Mary, you want to talk a little bit about the teas and describe your experience, and I'll put the link into the chat box.
Okay, fabulous. It's
Yes,
it's a wonderful group, and I know that everybody there, I mean, every time I go there, I try to go there every week. I mean, everybody is, well, first of all, they're so enamored with our friend here, Ayse, and they're so inspired, and the speakers have been amazing. I remember the Dutch guy calling in from Rotterdam. He was a designer. Just, it's something about the energy, I think. And I think, to me, energy, when you meet people in an environment on Zoom, right, is so, thank you, is so remarkable. And I think that's what is the pull, that's what attracts people to something that resonates with them. And when I think about you talking about moving to New York, it's like New York was calling you, right? It called you. And it probably, when you got there, it said, what took you so long? Did that happen?
It's just, I don't know. There's something I call New York, like there's a rubber band between New York and I. Every time I try and move away from it, it'll just kind of like pull me right back and say, where are you going? And look, I'm calling in from New York right now. And even though New York is not the New York we love, it's still the New York we love. And
yes, exactly.
I miss doing things outside, but the other day I went to MoMA, and it really made me reconnect with why I love the city, to see the art. And I'm hanging in here waiting for New York to come back.
I get it. So Ayse, we're going to wrap up in a minute. This is my first time, as you know. This is the launch of walk outside the line, thanks to you being my first guest. And of course, I see, oh my God, is that a little hello and love from Dory Clark, you gorgeous girl, and someone else, Lawrence, I don't know where you're from, but I'm not seeing any questions, and I maybe have something turned off. So, you know, I, like you, I have to learn better how to deal with this chat. But I just want, would you share with us what, I'm getting on low battery. How did that happen? Just dare our listeners to do something, one thing that's going to get them to walk outside the line.
Oh yes, I love that. And Mary, my hat off to you for daring to start this, new LinkedIn Live and to invite me to be your guest. I'm just so thrilled to be with you and your audience, and I think great things will come of it. And so what I'd like to dare everyone is, I dare you all to design an original life, to have an original roadmap for yourselves that individually resembles you, your values, who you are, and includes your superpowers. And just to know that you are the user of your own life and you deserve something that is special and unique, that truly resembles you. So my feeling about where we're at today, there are no roadmaps. We're all reinventing ourselves and our lives. And one way to do that is through thinking like a designer, using a design process. And for those of you, Mary shared with you her impressions of the virtual tea. I just want to add, you don't need to be a designer to join us. It's a beautiful group of people of all ages, colors, and orientations who are simply interested in the idea of designing their lives. And we come together and we do one exercise at a time. And you can, dive into the circle from any tea. So you could come tonight and start it, and I think you'll find yourself on like-minded people. So this is an invitation. And Mary, I hope you're coming too, because I love it when
I'm coming today. I'm coming. Ayse, I'm going to sign off with you, wrap up. Thank you so much for helping us all learn how to walk outside the line a little bit more as we move into 2021. And
thank you, Mary.
Deep bow to you. Deep bow, and more later.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks. Thanks, Ayse.